CWPA Remote.
Hi, I'm Ed Hawes, Director of Communications for the Collegiate Water Polo Association, and this is the CWPA Remote. With me today is two-time Women's National Collegiate Club Coach of the Year, Katie Larson of the University of Florida, and still reigning National Collegiate Club Champion for the 2019 season. How's everything going today?
Great. It was the easiest national championship we ever won this year. Everything's good.
Well, let's start from the beginning. Talk a little bit about your own playing experience, how you came to Florida, and how you got into coaching.
Okay. I grew up in Atlanta, and I played in high school at a school called Pace Academy in Atlanta. The coach at the time had never played water polo. He was a swimming coach, and he taught himself water polo from the rule book, which is very difficult. So he taught us water polo, but then there's also the long-standing Masters Dynamo Club in Atlanta, which at the time, way back then wasn't called Dynamo, but it is now. And so I got to play with those guys a lot too. They taught me a lot, and I decided that I wanted to play in college. So I went to the University of Massachusetts. This is when they had a varsity program. And I played there for 3 years. And then I came back to Atlanta, got a job offer in Gainesville, decided I could use a change of scenery, and I hate snow, so I definitely wasn't going farther north again. Learned some really important lessons about where I want to live when I lived in Massachusetts. It's not there. So I came down to Florida for a job, and there was the club team already down here. The women's club team was functioning at that point already. They had a grad student who was the coach. Maybe he was a grad student, maybe he was a senior, but in any case, he finished his studies the second year I was playing, and so they asked me to take over coaching. So I did, and there's also a master's team down here that I play on.
All right. Obviously, coaching at Florida is not easy. You have a unique relationship with your assistant coach, as you're married to your assistant coach.
Yeah. Talk a little coach, if that's okay.
Talk a little about the experience of having your spouse also coaching with you. There's no away time from your spouse. You're with them pretty constantly. So they see the highs, the lows, the struggles of coaching.
I'm really lucky that Tim loves water polo as much as I do, because I don't know any other spouse who would put up with me dedicating as much of my free time to coaching as I do. I mean, I have a full-time job. I have 2 kids that we're raising. And so coaching is like my hobby, I guess. And he's obviously been very supportive of that because he does it too. I couldn't do it without him. I wouldn't have started without him. I mean, he's the one who convinced me that I could do it in the first place. I was terrified 13 years ago. I was like, there's no way I can do that. But he talked me into it. He said he'd help me, and he does. He's, obviously he handles the goalies. I know nothing about goalkeeping. It's magic when they block the ball to me. I'm just like, every block is just absolute magic. But he's a great goalie coach for them. He played goalie when he played polo. Now he's converted to field. He prefers to be a field player now, but he started in goalie. So that's been just, I can't even say how helpful that's been. I would be useless to the goalies if I was the one who was supposed to coach them. So that's been invaluable, but also, he's very tactical minded. I think that the girls would probably say any plays that we do, any last minute adjustments we make, that is him just really tapping into his background of watching a ton of sports and being a very good tactician and helping me with that kind of stuff. He's really good at reading the pool, reading the plays, reading the offense, and helping adjust. Much quicker at that than I am. That gets us in trouble. He says the highs and lows. And so there are times in the middle of a game when he's like, hey, we got to try this new play. We have to do this right now. And I'm like, I'm not teaching the girls a new play right now. You'll freak them out. So in that case, every once in a while we butt heads. I get a little bit stressed before tournaments. Like, the drive on Friday night to wherever we're going, he's learned that I'm not really talkative. That's how I get my stress going. So I think it's actually helped, honestly, that we're married, that he's my assistant coach. We can be honest with each other. We don't pull any punches. But, obviously at the end of the day, we want our marriage to remain intact. So we're kind and we know when to not push something. And he's really supportive of the way I coach, and I'm supportive of the way he coaches. And I think it's been great. Besides the fact that, girls in college aren't around families a lot. Like, I feel like that's one of the things you miss when you're in college is families, being around families and kids. So to have that, I think the girls appreciate having that, our relationship, there for them, available for them, to watch us, to be almost a part of our family like that. I think it brings them in more close to us.
Well, you talked about the success of coaching and about the family. Obviously, you have a unique role unique place in the sport right now. You were the first East Coast team to ever win the Women's National Collegiate Club Championship. Accomplished that in 2019 when you beat UC Davis. Also, you're the only individual in the history of the Women's National Collegiate Clubs to win back-to-back Coach of the Year awards at Nationals from 2018 and 2019. And throw in the fact that Florida, in all the times they've qualified for the National Club Championship, has never finished outside the top 9. Obviously, first in 2019, second in 2001 and 06, third in 02 and 04, 12 and 18, fourth in 2003 and 2016, fifth in 2000 and 2011, seventh in 2008, eighth in 2014, and ninth in 2005 and 2007. So there's been a history of success with the Florida program. What do you credit the success to, for especially the longevity of success? Pretty much every year they've qualified for nationals, and pretty much every year they've finished in the top 9. So what's been the key to the success of the Gators program over that time?
I'd like to say it's me, but that's not the case. Partly, I'm sure Tim and me being there and consistent over the past 13 years has helped the program maintain its, success. But it was a successful program. They had never lost regionals before we took over. In fact, the year that I started coaching was the first year UF lost regionals in Florida. So that was tough. But we took over a very successful program. That to me, it's the high school coaching. It's the high school programs in Florida. They just continue to produce these amazingly talented water polo players that, a lot of them will go D1, but the ones that don't will come to the club team, but they certainly could play D1, but I get them instead. And, that's been amazing. And I think just the depth and breadth of water polo players in Florida, there are certainly cities that really don't have a lot of presence yet, but Miami and Orlando, those have long-lasting, epic water polo programs with coaches that have been around for a long, long time. And they just have a record of consistently producing these high-level water polo players. And, a lot of these girls want to stay in Florida. They don't want to play, they don't want to pay out-of-state tuition. The closest varsity program's pretty far, and they don't want to have to travel that far. There's not a lot of amazing, close, easy choices for a varsity program. It's a big decision. And so a lot of them will play here. They play at UCF. They play at FSU. And I think, UF just being the flagship that it is, these girls grow up Gators. They want to be Gators. And so they just embrace it as soon as they come to the school, and they play up because they have such pride in representing the program. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. We're super successful. We have girls come. They want to maintain the success. They work really hard. The next group comes in. It's just a culture that was started before I started coaching, and that, obviously I wasn't willing to give up. I like to be a winning program. I like to have the success that we've had. So we do everything we can. We build up our players that don't know enough to make sure that we never have a deficit of people able to get in the water. We constantly reach out to girls to see if they're going to play. And if they say they're going to play and they don't show up, we make sure we follow up and just let them know they're welcome. We just do everything we can to keep the program going and get a high attendance count and high accountability. And, just Tim and I are both very competitive. And the girls know that the way that our time is, we have to have teams that work hard, that want to win, because it's, like I said, it's our free time. That's all we do. So we're not just hanging out. I mean, we're there with a purpose and we're serious.
Well, you've been to nationals so many times. You've seen all the other top programs in the country. Who would you say have been some of the better opponents you faced? And obviously, you've faced some of the longer standing coaches, the Brian Coglins at Notre Dame, et cetera. So who would you say have you enjoyed coaching against the most during your time?
I mean, you hit the nail on the head. I love coaching against Brian. Notre Dame has a special place in my heart. I'm from an Irish family. It just has that majestic aura about it. It's, such a long-standing, amazing program. I mean, Brian's coached for 20 years. He's been there forever. He's so smart and helpful, and, immediately stepped up to help be a mentor for me. He's really fun to watch coach. He's just like so passionate and loud. And if you don't know him, you think he's terrifying, but he's not. He's super supportive. He loves his girls. They love him. So he's definitely been a coach that I've tried to model after in my approach. And I can tell his relationship with his girls is a special, they're committed to each other. They care about each other. They're not just player coach. And that's what I wanted for my team too. So he's been super fun to play against all the time. And having nationals at Notre Dame in 2019, I told him, I was like, this is the second best thing to being at UF. This is we feel like it's a second home for us. So it was amazing that worked out. Besides that, Jamie out at SDSU, she's been coaching for a long time. I've seen her do things on deck when something's going on that's frustrating, and the girls aren't performing or doing something she wants, and she's just supportive and positive to them, and she's not yelling and she's not getting frustrated. She's just pushing on and going. So she's been really fun to watch. I think she started maybe 2 years after me, so she's been there for a long time. I especially appreciate the female coaches. I think the first nationals I went to, I was the only female coach, and so having more and more female coaches show up on deck has been amazing to see. I'm so happy about it. So she's been fun. UC Davis is an amazing team. I don't think they've had they had for a while the same coach, and then now it's turned over a couple times, but consistently just super powerhouse. When I first started coaching, Cal Poly won 18 times in a row. I mean, they were amazing programs. So of course, those big programs coming out of California, watching the Michigans, rise and have great teams. Ohio State has had great teams. It's just all over the country watching these programs pop up with talent and surprises. And I love to see the variety of teams that show up at nationals when we get there, just to see who's up in the region, who's having trouble, who's the coach. It's so fun to connect. And now your first interview, I guess, was AJ. He's back. He was around when I first started coaching in Arizona, so that's fun. Just the faces that stay.
Well, you mentioned the number of women's coaches that are coaching women's water polo on the club level now. We're seeing an increase in the number of women getting into coaching. What advice would you give to a women's athletes looking to get into coaching, be it club, be it on the college level, be it the high school level, wherever it may be? What advice would you give them as they step into that field?
I mean, I think the two most important things for me have been confidence and support. So you have to be confident walking on deck. You're going to have refs take you aside and tell you how you could have coached differently. Maybe that's because you're young, maybe that's because you're female. You'll never know. But you'll be looked at, you'll be watched. And so if you can just have confidence and know that your approach and your tactics are good and solid, and that you know what you know, and everybody works to get better all the time. No one's going to be perfect, but you're giving your best. You just have to walk out there and do what you think is right and be confident in your decisions. You can't second guess yourself or, feel worried that someone's judging you. So I think that's one big thing. I also think, at least for me, even winning Coach of the Year 2 years in a row, even winning nationals, there's always a little voice in your head going was this really me? Do I really deserve, maybe this is more Tim, maybe this was this, there's always just that little doubtful voice, but you have to stomp it down and just embrace that you deserve it. And, you can do it. You just have to step in there and try your best, even if you don't think you can do it. And then the second piece is support. Again, I don't think I could do this if I didn't have Tim supporting me and allowing me to spend the time I'm spending. My family comes out and helps and takes care of the kids when we go on trips. Even the girls turn into babysitters when we need them. I mean, just having, especially having a family, just having support also helps you feel confident, right? Because if you don't have support and you don't have people helping you and encouraging you, then you really do feel alone, and you feel like you're, walking on icy ground and you don't ever know how solid you are. But if you have that support system, there's always people cheering you on and building you up. So that to me is key.
All right. I'll end this with one final question. If there was one piece of advice that you know now that you would have known when you were starting coaching, what would that have been? If you could go back and tell your younger self something that you know now that you didn't know then, what would that be? And
Oh, I mean, I think it all comes back to the confidence. Like, you can do this. Don't be afraid. You can handle this. You can make decisions. You know what you're talking about. Also, I think too, just the girls are your biggest ally, that they are there to help you. They don't want to see you fail. They don't want to see the team fail. They want people to succeed. They want coaches to succeed. So, like, use them, funnel their talent, funnel their knowledge. As a coach, you don't have to be the end all be all of knowledge. Sometimes girls are taught differently than you were taught, or there's something new coming out that you don't know about, some new play or some new approach to defense. So just to use the girls and use their experience and their knowledge and their emotional maturity and everything that they bring to the sport even more, to rely on them as much as they rely on you as a coach, I think probably would have helped me start off a little bit stronger, not going in there thinking, well, I'm not super confident, so I'm going to act it and I'm going to be right. You're not always right. The girls know what they're doing. So they'll help you if you let them.
all right. Well, with that, Coach Katie Larson, University of Florida, thank you for doing this, and good luck in the upcoming 2021 season, and good luck defending your national championship once again.
Thank you. We look forward to it. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks.